All right, we want to say welcome here again. I Never Knew TV to the reading Ross, the man from the Lion's Voice, the Rastafari, Brethren, the Dejazmatch Kwasi. Fire, what's going on?
Yes, first and foremost, let me just greet I Never Knew TV family in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I, and his chosen Queen Empress was Zero Menen. It's a pleasure to be here with the I Never Knew TV family once again.
First question I want to ask is, what do you believe is Ibrahim Traoré's represents in the context of African sovereignty, and how does the Sahel states reflect a new chapter in post-colonial leadership?
First of all, Ibrahim Traoré has reignited the spark of the Pan-African vision. We as Rastafari, I want to take time to talk about our elders, our Rastafari elders that inculcated in us as young people the importance of a united and prosperous Africa. And for a long time, it was a lonely journey. Big up all of the UNIA, all of the Pan-African institutions that were holding this flag alive. But for most of the black world, that Pan-African spirit was waning. Along comes a young, militant, 30 plus year old Captain Ibrahim Traoré, coup d'etat in Burkina Faso. The remembrance now of Thomas Sankara arises. A flame is lit on the African continent, and because of social media, this is what we have to emphasize. And the independent media, the narrative that develops is one that rekindles the fire, that Pan African fire. And there are some key aspects in terms of why I think this is different than what we've seen previously, with the exception of maybe the earliest days of the independence movie as represented by the liberation of Ethiopia in 1941 from Italy, and His Majesty work in terms of the liberation of the 32 states that would become the Organization of African Unity. That liberation process was stymied by the colonialism, and a term that we now call neo-colonialism is born, where
Before you continue far, because you know we're here to teach, please give a brief definition of neocolonialism for those unaware.
so neo-colonialism is tied to neoliberalism, meaning that essentially it's the ownership of a country by foreign powers, but it's primarily financial, meaning that you have foreign corporations that own all of the national resources, that are funding your military, that are bringing in aid, which brings dependence, which wipes out your agricultural sector, making you dependent on foreign inputs for things that are grown locally. So neocolonialism is the political capture, turning an African state into a vassal. However, we're not doing it with boots on the ground and maybe a foreign military in your country. So we exchanged colonialism, which was, a more physical. We had foreign bases, troops. We were training. And a lot of people don't know, for example, that there were millions of African troops that fought in World War II on behalf of the colonial countries, France in particular. The army that liberated Ethiopia were predominantly Kenyans, Ugandans coming from Britain's Foreign Legion forces. It was black man liberating black man. We hear about the generals, Colonel Wingate and these people, but it was an African army. So when we talk about Ibrahim Traoré now, we see a leader that not only comes to power, but now begins to reclaim that mineral wealth. So it cuts that neocolonialism string that's there, the nationalizing of the gold mines, the nationalizing of the uranium and other rare earth metals that are there in Africa being exploited. These things were revolutionary because now we get to the economic heart of neocolonialism, which is where we failed. Now, what I say about Ibrahim Traoré, and I'm still answering the number one question. We're educating along the way, and we're making sure that we paint the context. What I say is that the same things we're seeing with Ibrahim Traoré, why it's exciting for us as Rastafari people, is that these were the things we saw with a young Rastafari starting in 1916 when he ascended to the throne of Ethiopia as heir to the throne under Empress Zaidi too. You know, when you talk about the economic Ethiopia reclaiming or asserting its power internationally, when you talk about the mechanization of agriculture, when you talk about the importation of the printing press, controlling the narrative, the media, big up I Never Knew TV and all the independent black media that, you know, are part of this revolution, because my central thesis for my interview today is that we're coming into a golden age of Africa and the Pan-African. You understand? I can't come up to I Never Knew TV and just run my mouth. I have to have a thesis. What am I here talking about? We're headed into a golden age, and Ibrahim Traoré is just a symptom of that unfolding, because they suppressed it, but you couldn't keep it down. One of the key things that we knew he was serious is that the formation of the AES, Association of Sahel States, when they created a development bank. So in addition to nationalizing the gold, creating a bank where they could retain value, they can do loans.
Real quick, Farai,
Yes, sir.
for those context, quick definition of nationalization so people understand it.
So when we talk about nationalizing, just means that the government is controlled. The resources are claimed by the government on behalf of the people. So no foreign company. And people have to know that families run the world. This is why we stress family. This is why we stress purpose over that something there. You know, this is why we stress all of these things on our platforms. I Never Knew TV, all of the serious Pan-African channels, we stress family, because families run the world. So these families organize themselves in corporations, and these corporations monopolize or seek to monopolize the earth's resources. So when we're talking about nationalizing, you're talking about governments taking the resources on behalf of the people. This is what neoliberalism fought against, the IMF and the World Bank, coming out of the Second World War, the financial infrastructure that rose up. The thinking was that we would want to stop nationalization and open up these resources for private companies. The theory was that this would lead to more efficiency in the private sector. The problem with that is that the private sector is driven by profit at any means, whereas the government is driven by the national interest. So if there is no profit in modernizing the infrastructure stays as it is. Whereas a country might say, you know what, we need a bullet train. We need this, we need that. It's not going to be profitable immediately, but it's needed. The private sector is not always rapid to do that. The thinking is they will do it because they're keeping competitive. But if you're a monopoly and you buy out the competition and you crush your competitors, then you have no need to modernize. And this is what we see happening in the West, where the infrastructure is falling behind the governments that have a national or a hybrid model in the East. You know what I mean? So when we see what's happening with the Sahel states, usually we get a revolution, and then they win the revolution, but then they have to go to IMF and World Bank to get a loan, and that's where the thing popped down.
Back in the same
You're
game.
back in the same thing, political capture, you know, the democracy, we buy both parties and we play them against each other, all of that foolishness. We've seen that time and time again. We're not short of coup d'etats in Africa. Why this Ibrahim Traoré revolution and what's happening in Niger and Mali now sparked this Pan-African flame is that these brothers didn't run to the World Bank or the IMF. They told the Europeans to leave. And now with their resources, which they're now selling direct to the market, they have amassed huge amounts of capital. The price of gold is through the roof right now because of the instability of the global fiat currencies, meaning paper money. Paper money. Paper money is losing value. Gold, the ancient store of value, comes forward. If we look into antiquity, the Africa's golden ages, if we're talking about the golden age in Ethiopia, we're talking about Shanghai, we're talking about Ghana, ancient Ghana, Mali. We see Mansa Musa, who left us so much gold in Kemet, he dropped the value of gold for 2 years. You know what I mean? So much gold let off. So as Africans, gold is our thing. You know what I mean? We're coming forward into a gold age. Right now, as we record this, gold is trading at about 3,500 per ounce. They're saying it's going to go up to as much as 10,000 because of the global instability that is happening right now. Where does that leave the African nations with massive stores of gold? Massive capital. The problem is we used to get that siphon off. It used to go to Canada, it used to go to France. It was financing the Western world under the quiet, our mineral resources. And this was uncovered as we took back as they nationalized the resources. They were looking at the books and finding out how much was being siphoned off. They filed court cases, all kind of things are happening that is not reported as widely. But now we're looking at, they didn't, Ibrahim Traoré didn't buy a Bugatti. He never got to buy, go have a party, you know what I mean, and start pull off in Dubai.
The man didn't want Burner Boy to do a free concert.
He
They
didn't
want no
even want
distraction
Burner.
for a free concert.
And Burner go sell off, you know.
And he said, "We want no
We
distraction."
are focused on the liberation, you know what I mean? So big up Burner Boy for the thought, but I also overstand Ibrahim Traoré saying right now, let's just stay focused on the mission. They're trying to kill the brother, you know what I mean? So he has to keep his people at a certain frequency. And because of the unification with Niger, I don't want to not stress that enough, Niger and Mali, this provides that unity. And what we see is that other West African states are now leaning in that direction. A major development was Ghana nationalizing its gold resource. This is the ancient Ashanti kingdom, the Asian kingdom of Shanghai, the Gold Coast, they call it, you know. So when you see them, and they just found a new gold reserve that they had not previously uncovered, which I think will help to motivate them. We're getting pennies on the dollar for our resources. If we take it forward, all this that they say we owe in paper money, we can pay that off like nothing because the actual store of value that we have. So in the midst of this golden age, we saw Ibrahim Traoré invest in the mechanization of agriculture, bringing in tractors, not Bugatti, not Ferrari, you know what I mean? Not Cartier, and you know what I mean? He brought in tractors, rice processing machines, and these things. So with that, it takes us as Rastafari forward to, as I say, a young Rastafari who not only imported mechanized agriculture, but established an agricultural college in the multiples to train the agricultural scientists to move us into a modern era. So when we as Rastafari say Haile Selassie set the foundation and they try to erase it, we have been proven right, because look at the impact of someone following that black print or that blueprint, what the impact has. And the rise of Rastafari, we forget, had that impact before social media. There were people in America that were celebrating him. Marcus himself in the early days celebrated the rise of this young prince who was lighting the world on fire. So this is why you're only going to get this narrative on I Never Knew TV, Lion Voice, and Black Independent Non-Aligned Media. And this is why it's so important what is happening with Ibrahim Traoré, what is happening in the Sahel, because yes, it could, it's going to face great opposition, but they're also now making alliance with Russia, some of the major BRICS power, and BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which has risen as a major alternative to the Western former colonial powers. So we're in the era of great power struggle again. The benefit that we have, though, as Africa is a rising consciousness, and the fact that we've been blessed by the Almighty with abundant natural resources. So the fact that these leaders are taking this stance, the fact that other countries and the people are coming together, because ultimately the power was always with the people. That is what we have to understand. Haile Selassie overstood this, granting Ethiopia its first constitution and then revising that constitution further to give the right to vote to the Ethiopian people, rising them from peasants into citizens. These are things that we don't talk about. We go with the propaganda against His Majesty that he was a dictator and these things. And what is the thing that they're saying about Ibrahim Traoré? The main criticism, he's a dictator and these kind of things. And as he correctly said, most places don't develop under democracy, because decisions have to be made. Democracies can be manipulated from external forces very easily. Where follow the money, who's doing the funding, So by cutting off that in this stage of uprising, the fact that the resources are being reinvested, the fact that he's investing in infrastructure, importing road building machines. The French constructed 3,500 kilometers of road. Ibrahim Traoré has a plan to construct 5,000 kilometers of road per year. You see? So these are the reasons, objectively, why we are saying that Ibrahim Traoré is important to the wider Pan-African context, because he puts us forward on the track that was started by His Imperial Majesty within the historical timeline, and that was delayed with the assassination of Patrice Lumumba, coup d'etat with Kwame Nkrumah, that whole campaign that was waged against our Pan-African forefathers.
We are seeing renewed calls for unity across the continent. What is fueling this resurgence of Pan-African consciousness, and how is it different from past movements?
I think we are in the information age. That is first and foremost. When you control the minds of the people, it's much easier to implement neo-colonialism. The power has always been with the people. What's different is that it's harder to sell a narrative. It's harder to make the people feel deficient on who they are, when they know the facts. You can paint one side against the other side, divide and rule. That was their only plan. But in this time, you can't do that, because WhatsApp, people seeing the videos coming through the WhatsApp, they're watching, people are sharing the information. YouTube has been a great liberation resource. It's a propaganda tool, but it's also a liberation resource, because there's so many content creators that are cultivating their own audience, that are developing their own narratives. So this revolution, and then the finance behind the revolution, is also instrumental. Usually, as I said, we used to have to, we win the power, and then we find out as the revolutionaries, there's no money to build anything. Now you have a choice, you have an alternative. You can play one against the other. And I want to make clear that we stand as non-aligned. Neither G7 nor BRICS. As Rastafari, we stand non-aligned. We are for the development and the peace on earth, and whoever is willing to accomplish that, we are willing to work with them. You know what I mean? So this is how we look at the world. But this is different again, because with this golden age, and I'm talking literal gold, and we could add chocolate to that. We could add uranium to that. When we control our resources, the resources that are being used to develop this modern era, we can add coltan, copper, silver, you name it, we have it. So when we claim, and that's the trend,
And fire, don't forget to add the intellectual fire.
Yes, rightly so.
Because the brain drain still exists, but I'm noticing it's reducing, and you have a lot of Africans in different areas working together. You have the African working with the person in the Caribbean. You have the Caribbean person, regardless of the crap online. I'm talking
Yeah.
about in real life.
Yes, sir.
So that brain drain is not as powerful as it was, and I think it will be decreasing moving forward. And countries will benefit from the brilliance of their people more than they have in the past.
Let's look at a recent report by a world famous content creator, the great Wodamaya, going to Burkina Faso, visiting an electric car company in Burkina Faso from a Burkina Bay citizen that was living abroad. Obviously did very well economically. He returned because, and that's happening all over the continent. A lot of the people, the migrants that went to look for work in Europe, are slowly looking for ways to come home because of what's happening in the Sahel and what they're seeing on the social media, that there's some hope for them. The brethren also is, with the focus on agriculture, is driving a lot of people to go forward to the land as well. Whereas, one of the criticisms against His Imperial Majesty was the high unemployment late into in the early 70s. He became a victim of his own success. When you build up, all of the people from the rural areas come to the cities looking for work. There's not enough work. You're trying to bring in industry, you're trying to court, but then you also have an international embargo that's trying to destroy you because he withdrew his support from Israel in 1973 after the Yom Kippur War. So he became an enemy of the West. So the investment is not coming in, and you have all of these people. So this is how they use the propaganda to paint you as ineffective, ignoring all of the development that you've done, the thousands of schools that you built, the institutions that up to today keep Ethiopia united in the face of a constitution that seeks to tear it apart. All of that has been tied together by His Majesty. But what we see is that lack of employment is one of the big things that they use to tear down governments. You know what I mean? So the fact that Ibrahim Traoré, the fact that the Sahel countries are making it attractive for foreign investment from their own citizens that have left and done extremely well in the diaspora, this is going to accelerate. The same thing is happening in Ghana. A lot of the businesses in Ghana, as you know, the eye has been there. And I told the brethren before he went what was going to happen to him. And it happened because when you go there, you feel that energy of renewal, of something bubbling that you don't feel so much again in the West, So you're going to see and this is part of the prophecy, in Rastafari. Again, I keep coming forward to my elders. When I came in the movement as a young university student, they pointed me to Isaiah 43. And enough people, it's become cool to burn out the Bible, but enough of the thing them come true. Me see it. I shall say to the north, give up, to the south, keep not back. Call my daughters from the ends of the earth, my sons and my daughters, even everybody that is called by my name. We see that brain drain was for a time. People went to the West to do what? Become educated. Now that Africa is entering a golden age and Europe is declining, it's getting harder in Europe, prices rising, plus you're dealing with coal, what do you think is going to happen naturally? Millions are going to return to create this new Africa, that whole process. So we have to look at things at the macro level, and this is why I don't fight no one who don't want to go forward to Africa. You want to be from an area. I love the eye for that. The ones who are being called, and they are answering the call more and more. It's not Rastafari leading this charge anymore. We remember the lonely days our elders told us it wasn't cool to say repatriation, return to Africa. Right now, what's happening? Ordinary Black Americans, Caribbean people, UK, you name it, are leading the charge to return to mama and to invest. So this is different than what we've seen before. We've never seen it like this. If we look at the 60s, was there this mass rush to return to Africa? I don't think so. Maybe in rhetoric, but in terms of dollars, people building businesses and that free flow. The 70s, I don't see it. The 80s, of course, we don't see it. So what we're seeing, I think we can safely say, is unique. Now, yes, there were people going back and forth, Mary Makiba time, and you had Sekou Toure, Kwame Toure, you had, even Martin Luther King went to Ghana. So you definitely, Maya Angelou had that intersplicing, Malcolm X, but in terms of investment, going to live, that being part of popular culture, we have not seen that according to my study of the history. So I think that this time is different. The information is there. I can follow content creators like Awoda Maya, like others who are there. So you can't tell me that Africa is just all bellies when I see the infinity pool, you know what I mean? And the landscape, and I see the nightlife, and I see all the things that I see here in the West are there. So now you can't scare me with emaciated children, with flies running around their mouth and the images that we got in the 80s, That doesn't work anymore. So that is why it's different, my brother.
Why is independent black media critical in this era of global transformation? And how can everyday people actively support and protect these platforms and companies?
Well, first let me say that the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. There's a reason I chose this as a tagline, because the time has come. Narrative is everything. Why are you getting up in the morning? Is it to, the American dream was to go out, get a job in corporate America, build a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence, and be a cog in the machine. That was the American dream. And that dream motivated people to come from all over the world, from their impoverished states, to be a part of that storyline. So, and on the alternate side, there was the African nightmare, which was the African continent is a basket case. They're uncivilized, they're starving, they can't manage themselves, they're corrupt, they're warlords. So stay away from that horrible place. And Europe is the bastion of civilization. The Greeks started civilized. Imagine saying the Greeks of all people started civilization. Europe is a baby. There's a reason why our elders were burning Babylon and not Rome as much, even though we burn Rome. Babylon was the ancient Kushite society. We understand that the forces that we're fighting go beyond Europe, although white supremacy has manifested, this scourge upon the earth of wickedness. We understand it's an ancient battle that we are fighting. So we have to be vigilant against this evil that they're trying to inculcate and to spread among I and I. And it's very, very crucial in terms of how we approach what we do every day. And the black independent, and I add non-aligned, because non-aligned means that we're not Democrat, we're not Republican, we're not this, we're not that. We're giving you from a black worldview, from the worldview of the African, wherever you are, whether you're based in America, the Caribbean, but you're giving it from a black worldview, which we are the mothers and fathers of civilization. So we have to provide, we can't be filtering the world through somebody else who, in all due respect, just come. You know what I mean? The European just come. They were civilized by the Moors, the African Moors coming out of Northern Africa. You know what I mean? Teach them how to bathe, use soap, clean up your thing. You know what I mean? You have bubonic plague, rat a run round, you throw your doodle out a window. And we have to let them know, please. You know what I mean? Build some sewage. And you know what I mean? When you look at the Great Benin, people don't know about the Great Wall of Benin, which was longer than the Great Wall of China. This was in the dark ages of Europe. These things were going on. We had mighty, with street lights and wide streets and all of that. That's not the concept that we know of Africa. This is West Africa I'm talking about, much less Ethiopia, which was independent from time immemorial. So we didn't get that image because why? We were filtering history, everything through media of the people who colonize us, right? So black independent non-aligned media is critical for us to take forward that narrative. And, as we talk a lot of time offline, the responsibility of black people and those who align with the black tradition of all nations, because we have allies across the board in all nations. The responsibility is to invest in that. Nothing is free
Facts.
in life. You know what I mean? So that's the illusion.
And I think that I don't know where this idea came from, but there's definitely an idea circulating amongst black culture, and I'll say collectively. If people disagree, look into it. Anything that's beneficial for black people intellectually or any other way should be free. Anything that's detrimental, they're open to paying the highest price for it.
Yes. And again, that's the programming.
Yeah.
So we have to overstand, and this is the fight that I'm fighting in the Rastafari community, because the scam is that poverty equates to righteousness.
Facts.
And that does not. And I think that is part of the revolutionary part of what really studying His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I and Empress Menen is that we see wealthy people treading within a righteous order, meaning in service to the humanity and objectively measurable, not a fantasy. Same thing with Ibrahim Traoré, what's happening in the Sahel, taking massive wealth and investing it into touchable things that we can look, we can feel, we can see. That is the righteousness. Black people, we have been conditioned, that we will not support. I will look at I Never Knew TV, and if he has an advertisement saying, come and support my platform, I'm going to say, who does he think he is? You know what I mean?
Reality meds, right?
But how is he supposed to pay a staff? How is he supposed to scale? How is he supposed to keep the lights on? We're here in a studio of a black man who has built a business, and it costs. You know what I mean? If you want the quality.
They don't want to hear it.
You know what I mean? So we have to re-educate ourselves that no one is coming to save us. This is one of the things I say on my platform, the Lion Voice Network. No one is coming to save us. If we're not willing to invest in what we say we are, then we're not worthy.
And I think we have to do a better job too of educating and fueling that new form of propaganda to give them a deeper understanding of why their actions are not only beneficial to themselves, but to the collective. Because I think that, yeah, we could say what they should be doing, but they've been trained and socialized to behave in a certain manner. That's why the understanding is there on my side, and I don't take offense to it or take it personal. But we do need to do a better job of having more conversations like this and clearly explaining the benefit of their support. I don't even like saying support again, investment. Because what's going to happen is if you don't invest in these types of media, they are not going to exist. And you're going to be left with divisiveness, nakedness, porn, sports, and gossip. And that's the only thing that you will see. Then you'll complain and say, "Oh, where's the where?" No, it was there, but you never invested in it.
Yeah.
You never invested in it because you didn't see the value in it. And that's the issue that we have.
And let me just give the other side of the argument. A lot of people are living a life where they're not sure whether the account is going to have a negative in front of it. And there's a fear that if they sign up, that it's going to put them further in the hole. However, those same people find money for what they value.
But that's far right. That's what I was saying.
You know what I mean? So, but I just want, because a lot of our audience as conscious people, they're going to say, boy,
I hear it, but I don't hear it. Because the same person that would be on the fence with spending $1.99 or $8.99 a month, they have other apps because that's more important to them.
Yes.
So it's just a value system.
They have
and
Netflix.
I think we need to be more realistic to say that you just don't see value in certain things.
And, I have good brethren who I've said to they're coming, for years. You know what I mean? So I don't take it personal either, because I know that training is going to take time. I always say I'm willing to be that person to take on that fight, because we're not going to go anywhere without.
Fire. You know what I learned? It's not done out of malice.
Yes,
It's a
no,
value system.
yes,
And you can't feel no way if a man don't see the value in what you're doing, even though it's beneficial to him.
it's
Because
true.
if you speak to anyone who does work, whether it's social work, in a religious space, spiritual, health, they experience it also. It's just a common thing where the thing that's most beneficial for people, they don't see value in it.
And I think, again, they've been programmed by the media. So
Exactly.
we can't stop what we're doing, because it's going to take that repetition,
Non-stop repetition, a lot of
non-stop
repetition.
repetition, and maybe we're reaching the younger ones.
And people coming around still, though.
Yes.
So we have to give thanks for that.
And we have to give
We
thanks,
give mighty
because
thanks for those coming around, and we give thanks to you for the strength and the investment of your time and finances. But there's a lot of work to be done.
a lot of work, but we have to normalize. Can you imagine if you got $10 a month from your entire subscriber list, what you could do in terms of scaling the operation, documentaries,
How many
films.
people I could hire?
How many
How
people you
many
could hire.
directors I could hire? How many editors? Because I hire people anyway with what we have, and you know the situation, right? You know it's a
Exactly.
sacrifice,
Exactly.
and we keep people employed, and we keep money in people's pockets.
And
'Cause that's
what
part of
we
the
have
mission,
to
though.
think. That's what I want the people to think about is, yes, I never knew TV, the standard is impeccable, but it could be even better. You know what I mean? With more investment.
Investment.
Yes, you love the Lion's Voice, which we are now the fastest growing Rastafari platform of its type on the planet. But we could be better. We could, we want to get into animation. We want to get into blockbuster films. We want to get into feature. People cuss the Bob Marley movie because of the depiction of His Majesty. We don't hear who he is. You know what I mean? Where is our alternative? We don't have it, because we haven't invested in that. So we have to value it, and we have to overstand. Marcus overstood it. That's why he came with the technology of its time, which was the Negro World, the newspaper. That was the media of its time. His Majesty overstood it. That's why he came with his newspapers at that time. So our great world leaders overstood the power of communicating with the people. We have the responsibility, and we've been called because this is a calling. You have sacrificed for your family. You're a brilliant brother. You could be doing so much different work, but you sacrifice to bring this, because it's not sexy work. You know what I mean? To bring people talking about roots and culture and science and topics that are not, what the algorithm is calling for. I'm doing a whole series right now on Rastafari and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Who's gonna call for that, or who's gonna pay for that?
True, serious thing.
You know what I mean? We make those decisions because we know what our
People need,
communities
right?
need.
What the people need.
What the people need. And those sometimes are your lowest with the views. If I go get an artist right now, my thing gone through the roof. But we have taken a stand as the Rastafari Independent Non-Aligned Media. You have done it already. We talk about it behind the scenes. You could just go get the big names and pay for them and thing, but you're looking at a holistic platform that the people need. And the people have to support, and I say, if you have 1,000 people that give $10 a month, that's a 6-figure income. Out of a world of coming on to 7 billion, we need to activate. So if you see this content, you love this content, be active, reach out and support the content. We don't have the Wagga Wagga money. We don't have the Dubai and the Saudi money. We do have a $5 and a $10 that pass through our hands. All we're saying is direct some of that to the media that you love, so you can hear the information, the knowledge, and the see the images that you love, and that you preserve those images and that knowledge for your children. Because as you become a father, you become a mother, you want to be able to play things that are going to develop the mind of your children. So even if you don't do it for yourself, that that $10 a month, put it in your budget, support the media. Let's create that culture. This is not to the people who go and just ignore me and say the rest love money. I don't business about that. Because a lot of time we as content creators, we think about those voices and it makes us not want to ask for what we know that we need. I ignore those people. You know what I mean? I'm talking to the people who love what we do, who follow, but maybe there's so much things to do. You're scrolling, you're doing this, you're taking care of the children, you just haven't even thought about it deeply. You know what I mean? Those people who overstand the value, I'm just saying, get off the fence and support that media and it's gonna increase. And then guess what else? When I never knew TV is large, now you can advertise your product or service, which is cultural, on a platform that has
Facts.
already cultivated that audience. So there's a self motivation in that as well, because you can't go to NBC, ABC, they're not going to hear what you have to say. And
It's
maybe you
not
don't
your
have the million
it's not your
dollars
demographic anyway.
and it's not your demographic anyway. But now you as a cultural person, when you support these platforms, now you can reach out to them whatever you're doing and you have a captive audience. So you're paying forward into a system that you can benefit from. So it's very important for the conscious person of the future of this golden age. You can't be a passive participant in the golden age. You know, you're a fraud. I'm going to say that. You know, it might be a little controversial, but we have to call out the fraud. If you just conscious in your head, but it doesn't translate into where your money, follow the money. That's what we say for everything, right? So if you say you're conscious and you're not supporting, and I'm saying you have to support I or even the brethren, but support someone, something, some platform that's giving that content that's uplifting black people, uplifting humanity, and black humanity in particular, because I don't want to shift the surface, because I mean the focus, you know what I mean? Because a lot of time with black people, we feel we have to include everybody before us. And yes, I'm conscious, but I support this foundation that supports everybody. How much is that is coming to your people who look like you? So we have to be intentional about supporting black media.
A question I've been asking people, right? Or they should be asking themselves. At this moment, am I pursuing success for myself alone, or am I aligning my actions with the growth of the collective? I think every black person needs to look into the mirror and ask themselves that question.
This goes to the central issue of our time, which is the pursuit of purpose. Your purpose should be in alignment with something that is unique to yourself, a gift that you have that makes the world a better place to be, and in particular, your people. Because in empowering your people, you're making the world a better place, because the world needs that diversity of thought. The Almighty made us different so that all could glory in the Almighty, not for an individual person. You know what I mean? Not for one race to dominate the other, but for us to see the beauty. As Africans, all we desire is our continent and now our diaspora, the Caribbean, our islands, which is our sixth region. We're not trying to go and dominate anybody else. You know what I mean? So purpose, I think, has to be the thing that, and this is something that we can help it with as Black independent non-aligned media, is re-educating young men in particular, because our young men right now, we see they're not enrolling in universities. We see that a lot of them are just hanging out, they're playing video games, they're watching porn, they're not motivated, right? This is one of the complaints that they're saying about young people. This is because they're not in alignment with their purpose, you know, and we're not putting that. We're talking about the bag. Find the bag. So if you get the bag by scamming, is all right. I've had reasoning with people I thought were reasonable people who'd want to tell me that scamming is reparation, and I'm saying That's thieving, my brethren.
Big time, big time, big
Can't
time.
be a thief and
Big
come
time.
tell me about reparation. How that going to work? You know what I mean? And these are people I thought were reasonable people. Some of them have locks too. You know what I mean? Want to tell you that scamming is reparation. So the mentality, this is not in alignment with purpose, because scamming is not making the world a better place.
No, it's a cop out fire. I can't recite the quote from Baba Amos Wilson, but he was speaking about how a lot of men run away from their purpose and try to justify mediocrity,
Yes.
laziness, or just trying to, or just blowing in the wind type of energy. So I think what we have is that, yes, a lot of the younger generation haven't even been exposed to the process of identifying the purpose, right? And I can't criticize the men because a lot of them is learned behavior. But a lot of these excuses that they have and ideologies that they have is to justify their existence. They know something's off. They know something's off. They can't put their finger on it, but they don't know how to do other. And that's where they need more help from ones and ones to give them that strength and give them that guidance. They have to be open to the guidance, and they have to have a realistic approach, saying this is not an overnight thing. This is a very rough road you're going to go on, but it's beneficial to you and beneficial to the collective. You can't avoid hardships, and you can't avoid the hard work, because that's where everything comes. And we have a whole generation that their whole purpose in life is to avoid anything hard. And that's where we're running into a problem. I'm not telling people to go do crazy stuff. I will put it in the context now, you know. It's not jump off some cliff. I'm talking about if you're truthful about yourself and that hard thing that you're avoiding, what I've learned in my short life, that is the thing you should be doing first. Because that's the best thing for you, and that's the best thing for the collective.
One of the greatest quotes that I love to tell my son is that extraordinary people are people who do ordinary things extra.
All the time.
You know what I mean?
Consistent.
So it's not about trying to do something miraculous. It's about putting in the work and doing something till it becomes a second nature. And that's how you demonstrate excellence. I also say purpose over pum pum. I know that. You know, on this platform, it became very popular. And why do I say that? Because as a young man, the testosterone starts to flow, your focus starts to go there. So we need these words. And in Rastafari, for those who don't know, we say word sound is power. That means the power, we believe in the power of the word. That's why we change up the English language. And we mold the words in a way that, you know, we don't say hello, because hell, low, in the first two frequency that you greet someone with, hell is low. You know, why would you start the conversation like that? We don't say conversation, we would say conversation. So this is why, you know, our elders, people thought they were peculiar, but what were they doing? They were taking sound and they were modulating the frequency. So now you got to think before you utter your sound. You know what I mean? So it's very important for our young brethren to start reprogramming their mind and how they think, how they look at even pursuit of a purpose. I tell my son, be the main character in your own blockbuster film. Don't be a side character. You know, meaning every main, you know, the hero's journey. You know, you're introduced, you have the challenge, you overcome the challenge, you become, you know what I mean, the hero. So everybody have that journey. So that challenge is there to make you great, because you cannot become great without overcoming some challenge. That challenge might be mathematics problems. That challenge might be creating energy out of oxygen. That challenge, you know, there's according to whatever your vision, the Most High is going to give you a vision. Once you set yourself as a vessel to accomplish the Most High work, you're going to get your mission, you know.
And for I don't want to stretch out this argument, but there's an important component. I'm not sure if it's actually aligned with this, but in regards to the purpose, the youth need a spiritual foundation.
Yes.
To understand that, one, you're here for a reason, fight. You're not here to go waste time. There is a reason for you to be here, right? And you're empowered by infinite energy. I know people don't like that because they say, "Oh, what's the infinite energy?" Fire, whatever it is, it's powering you, and it give you that strength and give you that guidance. And I think that will help them with this hopelessness thing they got in regards to they can't do nothing and they out here by themselves. I need to understand that like you're aligned with so much firepower and backing power. And the more that they do difficult tasks, the more they can build themselves up to do even more difficult tasks. It's just to get them to start with the first task and not be so scared and be so terrified of, I don't like the term failure, but just say things not working out. That's the crisis right now, fight with this generation. They cannot handle their idea of things not working out.
Yes.
They just can't deal with it, fight.
It's true.
And I think that as we move forward, there's so much wasted talent because so many people been sitting on the sidelines because they're terrified of this idea of things not working out. And why they sit there terrified of things not working out, things are definitely not working out for them because they're not doing nothing.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
There we go.
And then they lose confidence.
There we go.
Failure is part of the journey.
I'm telling you, fight. I know. You know too. As a man, anybody that do a lot of stuff knows.
Failure is part of the journey, and we have to demystify failure. A man cannot accomplish anything. This is a quote from His Majesty, simply by willing it to happen. It will be accomplished in its time according to the will of the Almighty. So once you know that, and you have been given this directive from the Most High, and again, the directive, how do you know what it is? You try things, and there's going to be a key that unlocks. You're going to find you either have a great interest or you're going to be able to accomplish something with great ease, something that is beneficial to humanity. The Almighty is not going to empower you as a scammer.
Right.
I don't mean you get the call list and you make 2 calls and you scam people out and you say, this is my purpose. Don't do me that, please. All right? We don't support thieving, no time at all. I'm not saying that you go on 2 missions and you kill 2 men on your first mission, so God send you to go kill. No, but something that's positive, you know what I mean, to the whole. That's how you're going to know what your purpose is. That might be a content creator. That might be a doctor. That might be an engineer. That might be a scientist. That might be a road construction person. That might be a sanitation worker or a custodian. You love cleaning. You feel a joy when your custodians are needed, King. But that don't mean that you can't create a custodian business to inculcate that same spirit of love of cleaning, you know, and create a great service for the world. We have to stop, you know, put people in a box.
Time.
A man might just love cut the grass, you know, and him find out, say, him met the line there, man, you know what I mean? So that man can be empowered to create a landscaping company. You know, so when we're talking about your purpose, don't think it has to be you're going to march into Vatican with a sword and free up the Vatican library. Maybe that's somebody's work, but that's not everybody. Everyone is unique. You know what I mean? And that's what we have to let our young people to know. And along that way of becoming the world's greatest landscaper, you're going to mash up 2 lawnmower. You run it into the creek because you drop asleep, you weren't thing, and you get fired along the way. But you love it, you know. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. That doesn't mean to quit. It just means you got to get forward and you got to continue to get better. You got to continue to learn, because that's another thing, complacency. You get called to something and then you start to rest on your laurels and, you know, you're not living up to that excellence. And again, this is why the example of His Imperial Majesty to us as Rastafari means so much, because we have the example of discipline, restraint, hard work. Not even the critics of Haile Selassie can say he didn't work hard. You know what I mean? At what he did. The reason you can't slander His Majesty to I and I as Rastafari people, though many have tried, is that the work speaks for itself. You know? You cannot build a school because you hope that the school is going to be there.
I have to get it done, fight.
It has to be done. It's measurable. You know what I mean? You cannot build a college. Yeah. These are the same colleges when you go to Ethiopia that are still there to this day, that train the African freedom liberation fighters like Mandela and these people like the Mau Mau who attended these colleges to learn about warfare and these things. You cannot imagine these things. So the slander that people try to give His Majesty and they try to put their own thoughts into his mind, it doesn't match up with the history. And this is why we remain so confident. This is why Rastafari continues to spread as the information continues to go out there. You know, we are probably the largest Pan-African movement on the planet, but we haven't tapped into that sleeping giant. Uh, However, what I am doing right now is trying to really reach out to the Rastafari brethren and sistren. And again, the purpose, find your purpose. We are moving into a time of great global instability, geopolitics, war, rumors of war, food shortage. This is not a time to be playing around. This is not a time to be going to work, go home, you burn a spliff, you kick up your foot them, you listen to reggae song, you go a reggae show, you fly your flag, and then you repeat. This is not that time. This is the time to join an organization, invest in black media. This is Gideon boot time. Lace up your Gideon boot and be productive. I'm not sending anyone to pick up guns and fight against any government. This is a spiritual war that we're fighting. The armies of the world are already aligning. They will war themselves. I'm talking to the citizenry of the world, the black citizenry of the world. Now is the time to find your purpose or you'll be consumed. This is mark of the beast time. They're getting rid of cash, black market, all the little hustling where you used to do on the block. All of that, they're getting rid of all of that. You know what I mean? The streets, talk to anybody who's in the streets right now. They will tell you, streets are dead. You know what I mean? The only people, and remember back in the day in the 80s, you had some brilliant minds in the streets. Right now, you don't really have too much. They're either locked up or whatever. The people who are in the streets, I look at them as victims right now because they haven't studied the system that they've trapped themselves into. You know what I mean? The government, you can't get to a certain level without dealing with undercovers right now. And if you do any level of reading, you just read one indictment, you would know that. But these people are not reading. You know what I mean? Just do one indictment and you will see how much paid informant, you know what I mean? They're all up and down through the streets right now. So if you were a wise person, you wouldn't get into street life right now. So this is the time for young black males. Forget about the bag because the bag lead to Diddy party. You understand? And it hurt my heart to say that as a Howard graduate, you know what I mean? And Diddy coming from Howard University who had to take back the degree and the money from Diddy because we don't support that over HU. You know what I mean? But when we see these things that were hidden in the darkness coming to light, this is where this chasing the bag life lead to drug use, debauchery. You know what I mean? Confusion, Babylon. We are against that. We are telling the youth them seek the purpose from the Most High, the Almighty, whatever name you want to call him. I Haile Haile Selassie I the first without apology. Don't try come to we and tell me about this or that. You waste your time. We're solid. A man a deal with Allah, make him deal with Allah. Respect. A man a deal with the Black Christ, respect. You know what I mean? Don't come with no disrespect. Make we come together and work because we're all fighting a greater enemy. This is the spirit of Pan-African that Ibrahim Traoré has reignited. You saw the global protests. Who did you see there? Prominent. Jamaica. When's the last time Jamaica was in any Pan-African argument globally? You see? So we are returning. And I again, the central thesis is the golden age, the return of the golden age, literal gold having value, Africa reclaiming its gold, the golden people which are us that are taken, rising, connecting forward with our brothers at home. This is what's happening right now. And what we are saying in black media is be active, be a part of this historic. Everybody says, if I was back in slavery time, I would have do two drop kick, you know. you would have done exactly what you're doing right now, brethren.
Nothing.
Nothing. You understand? So for those, now you have a chance. You know what I mean? Those who feel empowered that they want to be part of a movement. You can be part of a movement, but how? Economically, you can support black media. You can join an organization, be on the board, be on a committee, help to carry out, the organizations that are doing the work that you want to see done. Now is the time.
And the last thing I want to say far before we cut is that people don't understand. Everything has to be this big grand production. Do your part. We
That's
just
it.
need more people to just do your part. Don't criticize what's not being done. Do your part. And that's it. And we'll get so much more done. There's too much focus on what's not being done, and everything has to be this big million-man march. It doesn't work like that. Do your part. That's what people just need to focus on, far right?
I agree 1,000%. And let this be the age of doing your part. His Majesty said to the Ethiopian people in a throne speech, the time where the emperor alone ruled the people has come to an end. It's time that the people share in the responsibility of government. And this goes from self-governance, this whole concept of the Christ. Emmanuel means God is with us. That means that it's not outside of us. God is with us. What does that mean, the Christ concept? It means that all of us have that divinity within. All of us are responsible for the manifestation of peace on earth. Because if you come with your wounds, and big up Baba Wakesa and the Aya family, my elder told me that we don't say trauma, because when we say trauma, there's an expectation that it's going to be forever, and there's going to be a trigger, and there's the trauma, and the trigger is always there. You got to can't say this word now because the person is traumatized. Whereas when we say wound, there's an expectation that a wound will heal.
Like that energy.
You know what I mean? So I stopped saying trauma. Big up Baba Wakesa and the Aya family out of Atlanta, our elders constantly educating us. And he needs to be on this platform. We're going to make that link.
I'll link up.
But, so the wounds, we can't let the wounds govern us any further. We have to heal from the wounds. We have to support. We have to wake up and be active. This is the time that we've all been waiting for. If not now, then when? If not us, then who? I'm asking these questions to the global Pan-African family. And again, we get the chance to write our own narrative, our own story. Every blockbuster film, the hero has a montage where they're training and them getting better, they fail. You know what I mean? We're in that montage stage right now. So all of us need to be in our montage, our training phase, our getting our money up to invest, our joining an organization. I'm going to wake up early. I'm going to go for that run. I'm going to do 2 push-ups. I'm going to cleanse myself with some bitters and do a parasite cleanse. You know what I mean? All of them something there that we know are good, that are encapsulate conscious community and the teachings that are now abundant. This is our time to prepare, because the world, as led by the colonial masters, they're not going down without a fight, and they're going to plunge the earth into darkness. As Rastafari elders told us, we called it the Armageddon War. It's begun already. So to prepare, we need to circle our wagons as a Pan-African family and be ready so that when they roll out this cashless system and say you cannot buy nor sell without XYZ, we can say, respectfully, we give thanks. We have our food over here. The item, do your thing. We love you, but we're over here do a thing. You understand? Will they come to attack I and I? Probably. But guess what? We have the ones like the Ibrahim Traoré, the Mali, Guinea, all of these countries now coming together, Niger, militarily, the African governments, and again, this is why it's different, they're also preparing themselves militarily. And I think that the global conflicts that are happening, we're talking about in the Middle East, we're talking about Ukraine, the European land war that's currently ongoing, is going to drain the resources of these colonial powers and give us a window of opportunity as the Pan-African family to play a smart geopolitical game as led by His Majesty, non-aligned. They need Africa for the resources. This gives us a window to develop an example, an alternative to this anti-human system that they are rising so that we can inherit this golden age.
No, serious thing, Friar. We give thanks for coming through. We give thanks for the teachings and the reason the same way, you know?
Give thanks for I Never Knew TV. And I just want to again big up all of the audience here and say continue to support the brother, Junior, the ballad. He is a national treasure. This is the first platform I really see truly Pan-African. You know, there are others, yes, but I know in terms of long form content, deep reasonings with, you know, whether it's Black Americans, whether it's people from the Caribbean, whether it's continental Africans, this platform is so important. I also was inspired to create my own platform, the Lion Voice Network, here on YouTube. We have our Lion Voice show here on I Never Knew TV as well. You can check it out here as well. But we have our own channel, the Lion Voice Network. Come and subscribe if you love Rastafari Pan-African content over there as well. We are also a part of the growing Rastafari independent, non-aligned media ecosystem and the larger Pan-African non-aligned media ecosystem. And we welcome everyone to come. Again, once you behave yourself, you'll be welcome. And we are here just holding a joy with my brother. And I just want to say love again to all of the I Never Knew TV Global family. See ya.